Welcome, everybody. Episode 21 of your favorite Overwatch podcast. Screw the other guys. We're better, right?
Oh yeah. What an introduction. That we're coming out swinging.
Coming out
It's a
swinging. 21
it's a
episodes
new
in.
tournament cycle.
Turned over
We're
a new
ready
leaf.
to
We're now just better than
yeah.
everyone.
We're the bad guy podcast now. Yeah.
We're going through our
We're
Joker
the
arc.
we're the heel that Overwatch needs, not the one that it wants, but the one that it needs.
Going through our Joker arc. We're just running over everyone else. We're like, nah, get out of the way. Out of the way. Make way for
game.
us. This is our
Yeah.
game. Our community.
Yeah.
You thought you got rid of us because there were no matches, but nope. Just like the first 3 times, it's not how this works. Just because there are no matches
back.
doesn't mean you get rid of us. We always have things to talk about.
There's way too much to talk about.
There is a lot.
And most of it is like non-existent stuff. It's just kind of, but it's worth talking about. It's just
it's non-existent stuff that we have bits of information about, but nothing like.
It's mostly stuff that like in 2 weeks, if you're watching this video, future people watching this video
might think
I'm
we're
sorry.
idiots.
Yeah. Just look
two.
at the date this video was published before you judge
Please.
the things we talk about.
Oh man. But we do have some actual tangible things, of course. With always, we've got news that is not related to the other stuff we're talking about. Various team stuff. Let's start with the first thing that happened like 2 weeks ago. This happened, I think, before the tournament actually happened. Gladiators parted ways with ONS. I mean, I feel like this shouldn't be a too big of a surprise. Like, as soon as they signed Happy, you're kind of like, what's ONS' place is on the team?
Yeah.
I mean, it did come out that the Gladiators had offered ONS like the option to release him before the deadline so that he could potentially join another roster, but he declined that. So I guess he just kind of wanted to ride it out. He didn't want to play the rest of the season. I hope he. I don't know if he'll get another chance in another team. I feel like he's really streaky, and I don't know if that kind of player is really one that's able to.
Well, and there are a lot of those players out there right now, and I feel like ONS isn't the most consistent of those.
No.
Like, I would say he probably isn't even the most consistent one of those that doesn't have a team. And with so many, new young players that are like killing it this year, I think teams, rather than taking a risk with someone like ONS, they're just gonna sign rookies.
Yeah, true. I don't think the Gladiators are anywhere off with this because they have Happy, who definitely fills those shoes as a sniper, and honestly even fills the role that Patipon had for when Patipon is still unable to. I don't know. We haven't heard any word from him, so I would imagine, at least for right now, Happy will be permanently playing. So, moving over to APAC, where most of the news is, Hangzhou Spark are activating the clause in their contract that says they have to have 12 players on their roster at all times. They signed Teru as a support, who we all will remember from last year's Vancouver Titans attempt of a squad.
Oh, yeah.
He was a DPS player who then transitioned a little bit over to Brig towards the tail end of the season, if I remember correctly. And then he went into Contenders, I think this last year. I think he was playing for like Team Diamond or something. And now he's on the Spark. And then they also basically, Neko, their coach, just jaked him and has now become a player after being a coach. I feel like we're about to see old Spark rear its head again, of playing musical chairs with his roster when it really shouldn't. I hope they don't, but
well, I think they had kind of a rough tournament cycle the last few weeks, and so I think they're just overcorrecting.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the supports
maybe
were
it's
the
not
problem.
an overcorrect. Maybe it's just, and who knows? Maybe it's like a communication issue that's stemming from the supports, and this is kind of fixing it. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. Like it's hard to say until the games start, but it really doesn't make sense on paper.
No, Super Rich and Irony were not a problem last stage, and Super Rich especially has been playing great this season. So I don't know why you would pull him out for someone else. If Teru and Neko end up playing, I mean, Neko hasn't played professionally since like what 2020, 2019, and then Teru, I wouldn't say really was a standout at all last season, but I mean he was on the Vancouver Titans, so maybe not his own fault. Yeah, nobody was a standout on that team. I don't know. Spark doing funny things, but Spark, when do they not do funny things with their roster?
Doing the Spark thing.
Another move that didn't make a whole lot of sense. The Guangzhou Charge signed Piggy when they already have an off tank that is playing pretty good. Thoughts?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. You know, when Piggy was dropped by Houston, we were kind of talking about it, and it didn't make sense for him to get signed on any other team. And so we saw it as like kind of a goodbye to Piggy. Oh well, that kind of sucks, you know? And so to see him pop up is kind of cool, you know? It's like, oh, there Piggy's back. But then again, it's like, what role does he play on this team? And I don't think it's really anything, you know? Like it really doesn't make sense to me. And I would be kind of surprised if we saw any playtime out of Piggy, and I'd be even more surprised if he did anything if he did get playtime.
Yeah,
because he really hasn't looked all that solid this year.
Yeah,
but who knows? Maybe moving to APAC is just what he needed, and
maybe. But I mean, it's like it'd be one thing if Krong was underperforming this season, but he hasn't been. So it's like,
yeah.
The only thing I can think of is if Charge are trying to get a head start on the Pelican sweepstakes at the end of the season and hoping to grab Pelican once the season ends, which then the Piggy signing would make a little bit of sense if they want to sign Pelican to take the place of Choice 01. That's the only thing I could think of.
Be a bad swap out for them.
So it's the only thing I could think of. So I don't expect we'll see a whole lot of Piggy, so I imagine there's something planned for him. And then they also signed Tydolla, who was their head coach back in 2020 and 2021, who helped them reach Summer Showdown and Countdown Cup of those 2 seasons. But he's joined them as an assistant coach. I think this should help them out at least a little bit. I mean, they were doing good at the end of Summer Showdown, so they're in a good position going into Countdown Cup. But I mean, then again, it's not really hard to be in a good position when the team you're competing to not lose your spot to is a team that just dropped their head coach. Valiant, what are you doing?
They're doing Valiant things. No, they they just lost NoHill, right?
Yeah, and what's funny is that it's not like they just dropped him. No, his contract finished. Oh, apparently NoHill's contract with the Valiant was only signed through August.
Who signs a contract like who wrote that up?
Who wrote that up?
They know the season goes through November, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna end that end of August. Yeah, that's weird.
And I mean, so much has come out of Valiant that NoHill has said that he basically worked himself into debt paying player salaries, and like, we know that the Valiant organization that owns them, Immortal, it's a terrible franchise, and Blizzard really needs to do something about this team, because like these players should not have to be in this kind of situation, and like your coach shouldn't have to be paying player salaries because the parent organ, because it's like, it's not Immortals itself, it's like the group that Immortals has hired to manage. Yeah. So it's like Immortals has been giving the salary to the company, but then the company doesn't give it to the players. Like this Chinese org needs to get out of the league, because they are not. I mean, this is now the 2nd year of mismanaging the crap out of a franchise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say this basically is a nail in the coffin for the Valiant. If they do anything after this, I mean, unlike the other head coaches that left, NoHill was one that was doing okay despite the circumstances. So losing him does not mean the Valiant are going to do better, unlike the other teams.
I hope good things come to NoHill. Like, it seems like he's been doing well himself and stuff. It's just kind of a crappy situation.
Very crappy.
So I hope it works out.
Valiant, please stop. Enough about team news. One other piece of news that dropped, what was it, yesterday? yesterday morning, I think. Playoffs, grand finals. Here it is. The news that I've been waiting for. LAN events, boys. Here it is, finally.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little weird, though. So, like, playoffs October 30th through November 4th. They're going in Anaheim. They'll be in the convention center. But they're only going to have a crowd for the 3rd and the 4th. Even though I think it was in the community update earlier today, I think it was Sean Miller who said that for the first 4 days, the 30th through the 2nd, they'll be playing in like a studio environment. They won't actually be playing on like the stage in the convention center like they do for World Cup. But then for the crowd on the 3rd and the 4th, that's when they'll be in the arena that we're all used to.
Is it the 3rd and the 4th or the 4th and the 5th?
It's the 3rd and the 4th because 5th is Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
The Overwatch League is having its grand finals on a Friday, which like isn't ideal for a lot of people, but I somewhat understand it. But at the same time, it's like I'm pretty sure we've known that Worlds was going to be on the 5th for like a long time, right? So it's weird that the Overwatch League didn't try and like schedule their stuff a week later so that they weren't. I don't know.
Well, I think if they wanted both of them to happen similar times, because like there is an advantage. You have a lot of gaming fans going to California.
Yeah, but you would put it in San
But
Francisco.
the problem
then.
is you should have put it in San Francisco, and so that's like.
Well, it's like it's one thing from
I kind of
last
wish
year
it was because I'm going to League Worlds. I'm planning on it, and it would be really great to
go to both.
Be able to go to both, but just with the distance, it's not.
Well, and it's like last year when Worlds was it was in China, right? Last year.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
It's like you can if last year it's like you could have the grand finals of Overwatch League and Worlds on the same day because time zones are so different. But when they're literally both in the US and in the same state, you don't want to be competing with Worlds. So I mean, we don't know if that's the exact reason why it's on a Friday, but it's a pretty good
Although
guess.
that being said, like a lot of the orgs that run Overwatch teams also have league teams and stuff, and so it makes sense to like. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the orgs kind of pushed for that because, like, if I'm, a high up executive for Cloud9, if I'm Jack, like, it would save a lot of time and effort just having them both back to back like that,
rather than on the same day. Yeah. It doesn't really bother me as a college student who doesn't have classes at the tail end of my week. I don't care. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they're all the same day to me. I'm going. Finally, I haven't been to a LAN event since the Dallas Fuel homestand in 2019. So
Dang.
I already got my Airbnb booked and everything. We're ready to go. Here we go. I'm excited. Yeah. Granted, the Outlaws probably aren't going to make it to day 5, but that's okay.
You never know.
Maybe they'll surprise me.
Honestly, I think. I mean, Outlaws are always like one good meta away from winning. Like crazy.
I'm pretty sure they've gotten lucky with several metas this season, and they haven't done anything with them.
Yeah, but the next good meta
this is the one for sure.
Man, that's the Houston.
Oh man! All right, enough about news. Let's get into actual stuff that has tangible stuff, but also doesn't exist. Let's start with all of the heated discussion around this battle pass. First off, what do you think that it's merited? All of the outrage is merited, or do you think everyone needs to calm down?
So it's kind of it's an interesting situation where, like, I feel like both sides are absolutely and completely wrong, and it drives me nuts. So when it comes down to it, it's like Overwatch. Like Blizzard has messed up. Like Blizzard's communication in terms of like prepping. Like the game comes out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And there's been no like big hype about it. And the reason why is they haven't really been putting the word out. People don't really know what Overwatch 2 is. Like I was watching some random clips earlier, and I think Flats looked at this it was a tweet from Overwatch, or like some generic type tweet just talking about Overwatch 2, and all the comments were like, oh, I can't believe they're making me buy a new game. And it's like people don't understand what Overwatch 2 is, and that's Blizzard's fault. That being said, when it comes to the actual battle pass and stuff, I think and I've said this from the time they mentioned that there was going to be a battle pass. I think the battle pass system is good. I think, it makes sense. It's the most like for these lives like the live service games. It's like, would you rather be doing this or would you rather be paying a subscription? Like, I would pick the battle pass every time.
Hmm.
And I think those are the only two systems that actually make enough money for a game to stay alive. Um, that being said, I think the most heated part, of course, is the characters within the battle pass being a thing.
Hmm.
And in terms of locking the characters behind the battle pass, it doesn't bother me. But of course, I'm someone that's playing the game enough
Yeah.
to get the characters anyway. Uh, I think a lot of it comes down to after the 9 weeks is up, how long does it take to unlock that character if you didn't get it during the battle pass? And
Hmm.
I think that's kind of the real question. And so for all those people out there that are all heated and angry, I think the biggest thing is just relax and just let the game come out.
Yeah.
Be hyped, spread the word, get your friends to play it. Like, because if that is a problem, then like they'll get it fixed. Like, I'm not too worried about it. Like let's give it a chance. Let's let the game come out in 2 weeks and then we can rage about it if it's bad.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. I think everyone just needs to calm down and let the game come out first, and then if you want to rage about it, you can, because all we have is just we have information, but it's all like, yeah, sure, this image says that Kiriko is unlocked at level 55 on the free battle pass, but what does that actually mean? Right,
Yeah.
yeah, you can do
And I
your
think
napkin math to be like, oh, well, based on Overwatch 1 XP, that's like 40 hours of playtime. You're like, but it doesn't mean
but
it's a
it's a whole
1-to-1 of
different
Overwatch
XP
1.
system. Yeah.
Just let the game come out. As somebody who's going to be buying the battle pass, I frankly don't care, but it's not
Yeah.
people like
Well,
us that are
and the
angry.
way I see it, so players that play the game a lot, they'll get the character anyway. Players that don't play the game a lot, like, don't play all the characters they have anyway. So, like, frankly, I don't. It's
Yeah,
hard for me to
it's
sympathize. I play League of Legends. I have like maybe half the characters. I've been playing for years. I don't grind for characters because like I have the same like 10 characters that I kind of rotate through, and that's kind of my group of characters. If there's a character you want enough, I'm sure it's going to be easy enough to
mhm.
grind for it, no matter what it's locked behind. But
And everyone, like, the crux of their argument is like, oh, but Overwatch is about swapping heroes and stuff, and it's like, is it really though? Is it
yeah,
really though? And the Overwatch team has already said that, like, for Overwatch 2, they're trying to balance the roster in a way that you don't have just one counter to something, and even like removing
yeah,
this idea of hard counters, so that you don't just like, by not having a hero you just suddenly lose. Like, that is really like the foundation of this argument against pay locking heroes or putting them on the battle pass, is that if you don't have the hero or your teammate doesn't, you just lose. And that's
yeah,
bonk. Let's leave that in the closet and don't touch it, because that's just wrong.
yeah. And
Please.
I think like for the most part, I have the kind of, this is where we're the heels of Overwatch right now. We're the bad,
Yeah, we
the mean
are. We
guys.
really
Yeah,
are.
and the reason why, and here's where you know my take might be taken as kind of mean, but like for all the people that are still playing Overwatch, that still like Overwatch, like the 6v6 stuff like that, like, good for you, but the game obviously doesn't work. Obviously, it has problems.
Hmm.
Obviously, it wasn't viable long term. And so, for all those people freaking out about, you know, losing that, it's like that's already lost. That's already dead. That game doesn't exist anymore. And in 2 weeks, it's just
It will
official.
actually not
Yeah.
exist.
And I think the world will be better for it. No, it's like
It might be.
I think Overwatch 2 is just going to be better and it's going to feel more like a real game. And I think some people are going to really not like that.
Well, then they can
Because
just
a
not
lot of
play it.
people and that's the thing. And that being said, I think I'm kind of disappointed that we won't have any of the like the PVE story mode type stuff yet,
Oh, what
and
are you
we don't
talking
know
about? We
how.
get Junkenstein's
Yeah,
Revenge
that
for the
totally
7th year in a
counts.
row. It's a sequel though. It'll be fun to play.
Yeah, but and it'll be cool, but I wish there was I wish we knew how that was going to blend in with the monetization, cuz like if
Yeah.
they're going to lock those behind like battle passes or something, like it would be good to know that in advance just to kind of like, you know, should I set aside some money for when the story mode comes out, or you know, like I just wish there was some sort of communication on how that's going to tie into things, because they really haven't said anything
No.
about it. And originally when they were first talking about Overwatch 2 stuff, they were exclusively talking about the PvE, and then now it's like they've completely dropped that out of the conversation, and so it'd be good to get a little update on that.
Yeah, that's a good thing to expect. But in terms of the PvP and what we're getting in 2 weeks, everyone just calm down. Let the game come out and then grab your pitchforks, okay? Because I'm tired of it. All right.
Or instead of a pitchfork, you can grab your kunai knife.
Kiriko! Let's go, boys! New hero! Woo!
And more importantly, a new healing hero. Like first time since Batiste. Like,
Yes.
which is which if you remember, Batiste came out when Goats was still the comp.
2019.
Yeah. So that, wow. Time passes so
Yeah.
fast. That's crazy. I am so glad and so happy for all the healers out there, the supports out there. It's support, not heals.
Man, Kiriko genuinely looks like one of the hardest heroes to play upon release.
Yeah,
Like
which is good.
straight up, her kit looks next level crazy. Like this is not one of those where you can just go in and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to play this hero." No, her skill floor is so high compared to heroes like Mercy and stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's good to add that in the game. It's good to have some of these characters that are not made for everyone. And for the first character that is locked in Battle Pass for new players, it makes sense that someone like this, where it's like it's going to be tricky to play this character, and if I'm playing the game and I have new players on my team,
I don't
I
want
don't
them
want them
playing
on
Kiriko.
Kiriko.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because like I feel like it's going to be really easy to feel like you're doing stuff as Kiriko, but be
Actually,
doing
you're doing
absolutely
absolutely
nothing.
nothing. Man, I mean,
Yeah,
just like looking at her kit, I mean, her kit is basically unlike anything we have in the game.
yeah,
Like her healing, it's like 5 ammo. Like her little what are they called? The
the
Ofuda? That's probably
yeah,
butchered. But like it like travels slowly and they just like 20 health apiece. And it seems like it reloads fairly quickly, but it's like,
yeah.
what the heck? We have no. That's the first healing ability other than like Moira's orb that has to travel to somebody. I guess Briggs' armor pack has to do it. But then like her
It's,
damage,
yeah,
like triple headshot damage. You two shot a 200 HP target.
yeah. And then her other ability, just like everything she has, which with it being such a high skill ceiling, to like with this damage thing, for example, the two shot kills, like you get that in the hands of some of these pro players,
Man,
that's when this is going to be crazy.
if you
So
give Shu Kiriko, everybody run.
yeah, so by the time Kiriko hits Overwatch League, I imagine she's going to get some playtime, and she's going to be one of those characters. I imagine her being kind of like Genji, where like every year at some point we're going to see Kiriko. Like
Mhm.
there's always going to be a room, in some metas for Kiriko, just because like if you have such a high skill ceiling, like some of those players can just It's gonna be crazy.
And
I'm
it's like
excited.
you go into ladder and it's like she only does 40 damage a body shot. So it's like if you're not hitting headshots, you shouldn't be playing Kiriko. You're not gonna be
Yeah.
doing enough damage. And like her teleport, like teleporting through walls. Reaper's the only one that can teleport, and that guy's got to have line of sight.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we get another invulnerability, ability, which honestly, a lot of people are worried about this. I think it's good because I mean, it's like literally 3/4 of a second.
Yeah. And I think the coolest part about this is it's the first cleanse the game's ever had.
Oh, it's full cleanse.
Yeah,
I wasn't
because
entirely sure like to what extent it was cleansing, but then they did like the developer update about her. And I was like, I went in, I was like, okay, so it clears things probably like sleep, it clears things like bionades, clears things of that nature. But then they were like, oh, it's also a good counter for sleep dart. And I went, what? Wait.
yeah, and I think it also any stuns.
Yeah, I was under the opinion that
Shatter,
it was.
I think it counters shatter. If you get stunned from shatter, you immediately step up.
Like if you're frozen, if you're frozen in a blizzard, can you just walk out? I mean, it's only 0.75 seconds, but if you're right on the edge,
if that hits you, I think it resets the freezing. So you would go from not frozen at all to
being able to leave, you'll be flowed.
Yeah. So
like, and what if you're in a grav?
I think it might get you out of the grav.
Because like currently in grav, if you're in a grav, if you're Reaper or Moira, you can't like fade out, right? You can't get out of grav. But if you're hit by Kiriko's ability, do you now have a split second where you can now just fade out and just get out? Like they didn't show that.
Yeah, I think grav is probably not. But they haven't really said either way.
It's because
it did say in the video like most debuffs or whatever. So it's like
does it clear hack?
There have got to be some exceptions, but I don't know what they are.
It's crazy, but it's on like a 15-second cooldown, and it's like a projectile that you have to hit, and it's only 0.75 seconds, like 3/4 of a second. So this is like a real skill shot, and you've got to see things coming. So
yeah,
and then her ult, this is the first ability of its kind, where it basically just speeds the whole game up to ridiculous speeds. And if you paired this with like an Orisa bongo, you're now attacking like super quick as well as doing like multiple times damage, and you're running. We're just gonna be playing supersonic Overwatch.
Like Reinhardt, for example, his swings are faster. You have a Reinhardt running at you faster than he would
with a double speed boost.
Yeah,
he's over here just like cutting grass.
That is the Overwatch. This Overwatch League
this is gonna be so fun.
Playoffs meta. It's gonna be Reinhardt. It's gonna be Kiriko
with Lucio.
It's gonna be Lucio,
and it's gonna be May.
Yes,
just running at people.
London Spitfire will win, and it's gonna be
like
wonderful.
Kiriko's kit is it just looks fun, and I cannot wait to watch it in the hands of the pros come the playoffs.
Yeah. Because I think in solo play, like so much of it relies on good team play, hitting your shots, making value. Her heals, they aren't terrible from what it looks like, but she doesn't heal as much as most.
No,
players.
She's
more utility.
She's
healer.
utility, and like the ability to teleport to teammates through walls while having an immortality. I feel like that's going to be her major play style, is kind of peeling. Like she's not going to she's not going to be good as a pocket. Like you're not going to survive as a Reinhardt with a Kiriko pocket. But if you're a Genji and you're going off on a flank and you're like trying to take a duel and you're losing, well, your Kiriko can literally just come to you and give you health, because like her protection Suzu, like it gives you like 50 health. Like it heals you as well as makes you invulnerable to damage for a little bit. So like she can help duelists take duels that otherwise would not be like possible. No other support has that kind of range and utility if you're behind a wall.
I don't know about you, but the way I'm gonna play her, if I ever play support, go. So you know how like flank Yada is totally a thing. So you just flank Kiriko, you just go around, and by the time people notice you, you just
teleport back
out of here. and then join your team.
Boom.
But like if you're behind enemies getting headshots, 2 shot, you should be able to kill at least one of them before they notice you.
If you can aim, yeah.
If you can aim.
If you can aim.
And if they don't know you're there,
you have lots
the
of
dodging,
chances
and
to
you
aim.
can climb walls, so that,
True.
like there's certain maps that you can kind of just get behind the enemies without them really,
It's gonna be fun. I'm excited.
and I'm not talking, high level play with that strat.
Yeah,
That's obviously a, gold player.
Gold player
No one
only
has any
strats.
awareness. So yeah, it's gonna be a thing.
I cannot wait for her to come out. I mean, people are sad that she's not included for Countdown Cup, but honestly, it wouldn't make any sense for her to be included in Countdown Cup. By the time Kiriko is released and available for comp, Countdown Cup will be over.
Yeah.
So there's no problem. It's like this is one of those few times like where it's like a brand new hero being released before playoffs, but I'm like excited for this hero before playoffs. Unlike when Sigma was released, you're like, what are you doing? Or like in 2020 when they decided to just suddenly make Roadhog meta for no reason. Kiriko being meta, being a release going into playoffs, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun to watch.
And I'm just, the one concern about the first like high level pro play with Kiriko being for the actual playoffs is like, if she is like broke for pro play,
send it,
because there's always that possibility.
Bring it.
And
I want
if
it.
She is, it's like,
I want it.
It would be nice for them to have time to nerf it a little bit.
Well, and it's like when you think about it, I don't think the way that Kiriko's kit is like set up, I don't know what, because like the biggest problem that we always have when heroes are released in a broken state, we'll just take Junker Queen for instance. She like enabled a playstyle, enabled a comp. I don't know what comp Kiriko would enable. Like I don't know, imagine that there would be like a one-trick comp. It would just Kiriko would just be involved in every comp there, as opposed to having another Jotes or Goats like meta. But I mean, maybe I could be wrong. There could be hero interactions that are just unseen right now. But
we'll have to see what comes of it.
But she's not for Countdown Cup. We have other things to worry about, like the fact that Blizzard, where are our patch notes? We're literally 2 days out from the start of Countdown Cup, and all we have are leaks. Please.
Help me.
Help. All we have are these leaked patch notes and Korean Contenders B-sides. We know nothing about what's happening in scrims. Different players are saying different things, and it's not lining up with what we're seeing in Contenders. I don't know what's happening. So let's look at these patch notes, which, based on what Avril has said is happening in Korean Contenders, these patch notes seem to be generally what's happening. So
I haven't seen these. Can you send them to me?
Yes. Give me. Hang on. So we'll just kind of go through these one by one. So the first biggest change is a general change that honestly I'm surprised it's taken them this long to implement. Temporary health, so like overshields, overhealth it now actually gives you ult charge. 50% the amount that you would get from normal health, but better than none. So I mean, this essentially makes Wrecking Ball just like an ult battery in the same way Roadhog is.
Yeah.
And also is just kind of a direct like nerf to Junker Queen's overhealth, regardless of the other nerfs that are down here. Like that 100 overhealth when it was, if these buffs weren't if the nerfs that are down here didn't exist, this alone would make like that Junker Queen sustain comp. There would be a lot of ults being built off of that.
Yeah, I don't think it would be enough to.
No, it single-handedly wouldn't be enough, but
it would change
helps.
the gameplay a little bit.
It would speed things up even faster.
Yeah.
Batiste got changes. He does a little bit more damage, and his fall off is now further. So Shu is cackling in a corner. Look out. Shu may be out for blood after being benched for a stage and his team not doing very well. Bastion gets his Ironclad passive buff for his wheel modes. I don't imagine it's going to be enough to put him into meta, but I mean, it's a fun change.
Nice for solo queue.
Solo queue Bastion wheel mode. Briggs Inspire duration reduced from 6 to 5 seconds. I think that now creates a fun interesting overlap because Whip Shot is what, a 6-second cooldown, right?
think so.
So now Inspire doesn't last as long as the whip shot cooldown, which is what was typically used as like a default way of keeping it up. So now you have it down for a second. Diva has now been turned into an assassin.
Oh my
15
gosh.
extra damage on booster impacts, one less second on micro missiles, and then, I mean, calling her mech when she's in Baby Diva form, that doesn't really change anything. But I mean, you now deal basically an eighth of someone's health of like squishies immediately on impact, on top of your micro missiles, on top of your primary file, on top of a melee.
Which I think is a good change, because I feel like Diva is a hard character to figure out where she belongs in Overwatch 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Making her an assassin tank,
making her-
dive tank of sorts is a niche that doesn't exist.
yeah,
Because Winston doesn't deal any burst a whole lot. He relies on other people. Wrecking Ball doesn't have a whole lot of burst, and he's vulnerable for some of it. So Diva...
And I don't like the idea of like just making her tankier. I like going the other way, where it's like, okay, she's gonna be the high damage.
She now competes with Doomfist. If you're wanting a high impact, instant burst, delete a target, you run Diva with dive heroes just like you would Doomfist. I think this is a fun change for her.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll put her in the pro meta at all.
It could. I guess it depends on the kind of comp you're wanting to run. Because I think if you're wanting to go for an insta delete, I think you would run a Diva over a Winston or whatever, because you'd be able to quickly kill something a little faster. But Winston does have the bubble, so I guess it depends on what you're running against if you want defense matrix. So, but I think this will help her be seen a little more. She won't be kind of an odd pick. But then the nerfs that we were all looking for, the Junker Queen nerfs. And honestly, this is kind of what we talked about it a little bit. So, like, the Commanding Shout only gives 50 health as opposed to 100. It only lasts for 3 seconds on allies and no longer decays. So it's literally just 3 seconds, 50 health. And the cooldown is increased to 15 seconds from 11.
She still gives herself 100 though, right?
I think so, because it said allied health bonus. So I think she still gives herself 100, and it still lasts for 5 seconds. But it like removes her like team play. The like what allowed the Junker Queen comp to work is it's now been removed, and then you combine that with the fact that now all of that overhealth gives ult charge. Let's just say that there has been very little Junker Queen played in Korean contenders.
Which I think is a good thing.
Is a good thing after what we saw.
Like, even if they end up having to, buff her a little bit as time goes on, it's good to have a break from her.
Yes.
And
then Orisa got tanky.
Big tank.
And got 2 less seconds off of her javelin from 8 to 6 seconds. Personally, the problem that I have with Orisa is she doesn't really do anything. Like, she has like 0 utility. Like she's
has a stun.
Nah, but not to the same extent.
She has a projectile block, kinda.
It's just she's just in an odd spot. Like these are probably good buffs, but it's like hard to. I don't imagine she'll get a whole lot of playtime just because, like, what does she do for her team? Like, all of the other tanks give, like, some nice, like, incentive to play, but it's like the only thing that you would use Orisa for theoretically is, like, a rush comp, but, like, Reinhardt works so much better than an Orisa because he has an actual shield. And you can't bunker with her.
One thing I was thinking about with Orisa is if, and I know, Kiriko isn't in this, this next tournament cycle or anything. Mm-hmm. But once Kiriko hits the game, so Kiriko, she decreases cooldowns and stuff. Do you know if she increases the speed at which abilities go off?
From the gameplay that I was seeing, it doesn't look like it. It just looks like the cooldown the cooldown speeds up essentially.
Okay, because if it did increase the pace at which you do an ability, Orisa ult would be kind of crazy. Because what you do, you speed in there using Kiriko's ult,
and
then
you immediately run it off in like 2 seconds.
And then just kill the entire enemy team, and it'll be beautiful. I don't think it would be more efficient than Orion.
Nope, it
just
would just
swinging
be a
his
lot
hammer.
funnier.
But it would be a lot funnier and a lot more enjoyable.
That's actually really
Um,
funny. I hope we see a little bit more Orisa because I mean the only Orisa gameplay we really saw was in the kickoff clash when Justice pulled it out and Shock were like, "What was that?"
Yeah, and everyone was like, "What was that?"
Everyone was, "What was that?" Reaper got a buff in that his spread was decreased from 8 degrees to 7 degrees. I
Cool.
think it was Custa talking about how in the alpha, Reaper's spread was either at 7 or it was at 6, and there was a whole lot of Reaper played. And I feel like we could see a little bit more Reaper played, but then again, the reason why we saw a lot of Reaper in the kickoff clash was because of like the DPS like speed passive. But with that no longer being around, Reaper, I don't think, like, yeah, you would probably be able to hit more shots, but I still don't think you are able to play him quite as often. But he'll probably have some place in comps.
Yeah, especially in Ryan comps with May.
Ryan and Zarya comps primarily.
Yeah.
Sojourn only gets 50% rail energy from
Oh, I like that.
non-players, so barriers, turrets. But I mean, there weren't a whole lot of barriers to begin with. It just makes her a little less
Yeah, but
effective
now
against
it makes
Sigma
her
and
so
Rhine comps.
well, and it makes playing shield characters into Sojourn not feel so bad. Because it used to be that you were just giving her free one shots pretty much.
Yeah.
In pro play at least.
They
And
want her to
so
actually deal damage to get what she needs.
yeah. And I like that.
It is a good change. And then finally, and apparently this buff is major in terms of what we're seeing in Korean contenders. So Sombra's hack locking out abilities has been increased from just 1 second of no abilities to almost 2 to 1.75 seconds.
Wow.
I think that what we've been seeing in Korean contenders B-sides seems to suggest that this buff is quite significant, because if you pair that with like Diva's changes, because before Sombra wasn't very useful because you'd hack, and by the time your teammates got there to like follow up on the hack, the person was unhacked and they would just leave. Or like with EMP, it was like the EMP really did nothing. But now, like 1.75 seconds, that's more than enough time for an Overwatch League team to kill somebody, especially if Diva's like jumping in there and then you run like throw a Genji or a Tracer at them, and then you run a Lucio speed boost, and if you Discord orb them or anti-heal them, I mean, that player's dead. And then, of course, it fixed the bug of Junker Queen's stacking commanding shout by peeking. But
I don't know how I feel about those Sombra changes.
In a good way or a bad way?
In a bad way. I'm not a huge Sombra fan.
I think that's just
I feel
because
like-
every time we've seen her try to be played, it's essentially a troll pick.
Well, but no, like even in the past in Overwatch 1, it's like even when she's good, I just don't love watching Sombra
Well,
play.
this Sombra would play very differently from Overwatch 1 Sombra, because Overwatch 1 Sombra was really like hack the tanks, build EMP, win a fight with EMP. But now it seems to be Sombra is moved into more of an assassin category, where it's like hack the player, call it out to your team, and kill the player. Like her kit isn't built around EMP anymore. It's built around getting a pick at the start of the fight. So instead of like getting a Sojourn headshot, you get a hack on the enemy Zen or Ana and just run them over. Because I mean, if you hack an Ana and she can't use sleep dart or nade for 2 seconds, she's dead. 100% guaranteed, she's dead. Whereas before, it was like Sombra wouldn't really always hack Anas because they didn't supply the most ult charge. But now, I think we don't know. We know nothing about what's being run in scrims. Like Kaluj was saying that it was like Orisa Diva or something, but then Hottie was like, no, it's Ball Winston, and then Korean Contenders is playing everything under the sun. I think we could be going to a. I mean, it's like if what is happening in Korean Contenders is what we get for Countdown Cup, we're literally blowing the doors off of what's possible to be played.
Yeah, it could be
because we were seeing everything from Sigma to Diva, from double hit scan to Tracer Sombra to Doomfist. Like everything was being played almost, which makes it very difficult to figure out what the heck is going to happen this week.
Which I like that. I like variety. I like teams having options and being able to play what fits them. And I think that goes in line with what Blizzard keeps saying their goal with this is.
Yeah. I mean, if we end up with Countdown Cup being a super open meta, then I would say Blizzard has succeeded in their quest to try and make every hero viable to an extent. Like, yeah, obviously there will be soft counters. Like Doomfist will always be soft countered by Sombra. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
But you're still able to outplay the Sombra with Doom if you're able to do it right, or if you just put like a Cassidy on your team or something like that.
I think, well, and one of the big things is no matter what, there's always going to be, like in pro play, there's always going to be um like a meta that forms where it's like, one or two comps are the best. And so the fact that we've gotten as much variety as we have, like with at the same time, like if you look at the first couple tournaments, like
Mm-hmm.
there was so much variety. And the fact that that happened at pro play in any game is kind of nuts.
It's a
And
very
so I think,
unique Overwatch.
yeah, and I think it's awesome, and it shows that you know things are looking good for Overwatch. I think like I would love if the if more people watched it. I hope that with the advent of Overwatch 2 coming out,
Mm-hmm.
more people play the game. And I mean, just looking at like it looks like Overwatch content in general is getting like more people are watching, even though Blizzard isn't doing great at advertising. I feel like the word is getting around somewhat that like this is coming out and people are excited, and I think Overwatch League could see a benefit from it,
That's
so I
the
hope it
hope.
does.
That's the hope. But unfortunately, we just don't have patch notes. But from the looks of things, it looks like we could be in for some serious chaos in the good way.
Yeah.
But because there's no patch notes and we have no idea what's being played, you can't really do power rankings, can you? So instead, why don't we take a look at the Countdown Cup and actually what it's going to mean for some teams? What teams need to be kind of stepping up if they want to have things happen, if they don't want their season to end here. So Countdown Cup is not going to have a normal tournament at the end. It'll just go right into play-ins. So looking at the standings, obviously Shock, Fuel, and Glads, they're guaranteed at least a spot in the playoffs. As to what their seeding will be, that's not terribly important for Countdown Cup purposes. So what we're looking at is 4 through 6 and then 7 through 10. So like the team, everyone in above like 8th and above is essentially still in the running for top 6. Technically 9. I mean, like Boston is the only one that's really not because they're only at 6 points and there's no way they can even get to highest they can hope for is 7th. So we're looking at Outlaws, Spitfire, Defiant, Reign, Mayhem, and Justice are all somewhat close to those top 6. Obviously, there's more buffer for some teams than others. Like Outlaws are very much in control of their own destiny if they want guaranteed playoffs. I mean, they have a 3-point buffer between them and the Spitfire, who are in 5th, with 16 points compared to Spitfire's 3. So really, all Outlaws have to do is win like 3 games, and they're guaranteed playoffs if they want to have full control over their, what they do. If they only win 2, well, then that puts them at 18, but Spitfire would still have to go 5-1, same with Defiant. So the Outlaws, as long as they literally don't just fall to pieces and win like nothing, they're in a safe spot. It's when we start looking at Spitfire downwards that it gets really close. Like,
So, random side note, is there any chance that Vancouver... Oh, I guess I was looking at the wrong thing. I was looking at map differential. So like there is a world in which Boston gets knocked out and Vancouver makes it in, right?
correct. Vancouver would have to win.
Oh, but they have crazy tough games this.
Vancouver would have to win. Vancouver would have to win 3 more games than Boston, because if they only win 2 more and they're tied at points, Boston has the head-to-head. But it would also go map differential, I believe. Mid-season to regional play-in. So it's cumulative league points, match win percentage, which is an odd one. But the interesting thing is it's match win percentage, and it doesn't say regular season match win percentage. So that includes playoffs, like tournaments. And because Titans also lost 2 games in the Summer Showdown, that means that their win percentage is lower than Boston's, even if they have the same number of wins and the same number of league points. So Titans would have to just straight up have more points than Boston. So they'd have to win 3. They would have to go at least 3-3, and Boston would have to go winless. So Titans are not.
And
it's not looking good.
Titans have some crazy games.
It's not looking good for Titans, and even New York.
New York, they're playing Glads and Atlanta.
Yeah.
And
So
Toronto
realistically, our top 10
and London
is set. The only thing
Yeah.
that's going to change is seeding. So when we're looking at like the 4th place slot is pretty much clinched up by the Outlaws. So we're looking at 2 more spots for guaranteed play-ins. And that's currently up in the air for about 4 teams. For London, Toronto, Atlanta, and Florida are all 2 points away from each other.
Yeah.
London plays all 3 of the big 3, which is unfortunate. Oh my goodness. Almost in a row as well. I think London play like 2 of them and then play like New York and then play the third. So London's probably looking at a 3-3 stage, unless like Gladsfield or Shock don't show up, which is entirely possible.
Which could happen.
Could happen.
Especially depending on meta. Like, I mean, we've talked about Fuel in the past.
Mhm.
I feel like going into any tournament cycle, it's always the same question.
Is it a
Dallas
hive
going
mind
to
meta? Yeah.
something? Yeah.
But it's like it's probably safe to just go off the assumption that London's only winning 3 games at best. Like
Yeah, but they'll definitely win those 3
because they're
it's
playing Paris,
New York.
Vancouver, New York. So London probably is going to be 16 points, which doesn't put them over Outlaws. So probably best London can hope for is the 5th seed. But Defiant is tied with them as well, but they are a win back. So London does have the tiebreaker over Toronto. So as long as they win the same number of games as Toronto, they will guaranteed be over them. And Toronto plays Outlaws. They play Rain, and then they have 4 relatively easier games, don't they?
Oh no, they have Shock.
Oh,
as
Shock.
well.
Okay.
So they could go 3-3 as well.
They could, yeah.
And they're playing Florida, and
Florida's always got upset potential.
Florida's always got upset potential, especially the last week of the season before.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
for Defiant, I think that their game against Rain this week is really going to set a tone for this stage. Because if they lose to Rain, then Rain will jump them, and suddenly Defiant on the outside looking in, trying to play into play-ins, while also still having Shock and Outlaws on their schedule. So their game against Rain this week is really going to be a big one. Because if they win, well, then that puts them 2 games ahead of the Rain, and comfortably ahead, as long as they don't just screw up. And then Rain and Florida, 12 points for Rain, 11 points for Mayhem.
Shock and Dallas this stage.
Rain?
Yeah, so
they're probably looking at best 4-2.
Probably 4-2, but a lot of that comes down to the Toronto game as well.
Best case 4-2 for Rain. Best case for Defiant, probably also 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
They could go 5-1 if they beat the Outlaws, depending on if the Outlaws have anything to play for in the final week.
Yeah.
But they're definitely losing to Shock. So are Rain. But the problem is like Defiant's best chance. Probably are going 4-2. That puts them at 17 points. Outlaws are winning at least 1 game. Well, they can't jump Outlaws. Rain's best hope is probably 4-2. They can't jump Outlaws with that. Mayhem would require a miracle to jump Outlaws. It seems like the cutoff is going to be probably 16 points. Looking at where London and Toronto both probably going 3-3, 4-2 if it's probably going to be 16 points for automatic qualification for playoffs. And Rain would have to win all of their winnable games and not lose to Defiant. Like their game against if they lose to Defiant, they can almost kiss guaranteed playoffs goodbye.
In other words, what we're saying is looks pretty good for London.
It looks good for London by default. Because the teams below them have to play harder teams.
Yeah. Well, and London's playing hard teams,
but they have a cushion. They've got
the cushion.
They've got the guaranteed at least 3-3. Like they technically, they could jump Outlaws, but it would require Outlaws to like not win a single game, and for London to win one of the unwinnable ones almost.
Yeah,
But I mean, top 6 for London.
Hopes up top 6 is awesome.
Top 6 for London. And I mean, if London and Florida both are able to get in top 6, that'd be crazy. If someone from the beginning of the season saw that, they'd think that you were on some kind of crack cocaine. And then Titans, Excelsior, Eternal. Yeah, no, just, I'm sorry, but there is no hope for you.
Yeah, goodbye. I mean, but the thing is, the thing about these 3 teams is because the bar is so low for them. Like, if they win any games against
I mean,
someone,
Titans will
like,
win
any of their
games.
games are big, and if they win games against people that are higher than them, that could change everything.
They can
in terms
play upset. They can definitely play upset
and
this week.
so I think when it comes down to it, it's like, do they have anything to play for themselves in the season? No. But could they have a huge impact on things and mess my dreams up as a London fan? Yes.
That would
Yes,
be
they could.
so funny if Titans, New York, and Paris just went, screw you, London, and just took them down and like dropped London out of guaranteed playoffs.
Yeah, that would not be funny. But
Moving over to the chaos that is APAC, Dragons and Dynasty are so far ahead, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
But then we have, I mean, APAC's teams are pretty much set because Valiant are dropping NoHill.
Yeah.
They're basically out of hope. So really what it is who's going to take that 3 seed? Because Spark and Fusion are both tied, but Spark has 2 more wins than Fusion. Fusion just have gotten lucky with the tournament, placements. Getting second in the kickoff clash really helped them out. So Spark and Fusion, this last tournament cycle, it's really just whoever wins more games gets the 3 seed.
But with Spark's recent changes, it's like I wouldn't feel super confident as a Spark fan. And I think with Fusion,
as long as they play M3, they're fine.
Yeah, and they've been playing him recently, and when he's in there, looking pretty good. And so I think if Carpe doesn't play, it's
Fusion should be the 3
I
seed.
would say it should be Fusion.
Fusion should be the 3 seed.
Weird, so
and then Spark will be the 4 seed because they're 5 points ahead of the Hunters and 6 points ahead of the Charge. There's like almost no feasible way for them to fall lower. So it'll probably be Spark. And then honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see Charge jump Hunters into the 5th seed. But at the end of the day, 4 through 6 in APAC, does it really matter your seeding? Not really. It's just 3 teams. You're going to play each other all anyways. It's a double limb bracket, I'm pretty sure. So you're going to end up playing anybody anyways. APAC is we're getting to the point in the season where APAC is starting to become a little bit predictable, hopefully. But we say that, and then this week is just going to become a mess.
Yeah, you never really know.
But NA, Glad's Fuel, Shock are probably in their order. I don't imagine they change at all. Outlaws are where they are. It's just going to be who gets that 5th and 6th seed, and then where does everyone else fall?
Yeah.
And I would hope that London doesn't. They're in a good position for top 6. I hope they don't beef one of their games. Typically, they don't. London isn't a team known to beef winnable games, so they're fine. Defiant and Rain, on the other hand, are known to beef winnable games. They do it pretty often. So are the Outlaws, but the Outlaws are in a position where even if they beef the winnable games, they're still probably fine.
It doesn't matter if
so, it is what it is. I'm excited for this week. So, usually before the start of each tournament, we go through and we do we'll just pred all the NA games. Well, unfortunately this week, APAC is also playing, and I'm not about to pred 20 games. So we're treating it like normal. The good old 5 games to pred. Are you ready for some game preds? All right, starting off, probably one of the most meaningful ones this week. Atlanta Reign, Toronto Defiant.
And potentially the most meaning one this whole tournament cycle.
Potentially.
In terms of setting the pace and stuff.
So Defiant Reign is interesting because it's have Reign gotten their mojo back, and did Defiant just kind of get lightning in a bottle last stage? Because if we're running into a Sombra meta, Hisu plays a decent Sombra, but I feel like Defiant are going to have to go back to their switching tanks because we don't know what tank is going to be played. Is it going to be Winston? Is it going to be Zarya? Are you going to be playing Muse? Are you going to be playing Hotba? And then are you playing Finale? Are you playing Although? I feel like Defiant has a lot more question marks over the course of their roster, whereas Reign, you would expect to know who's coming out. It's probably going to be Kai, Speedily, Hawk, Ultraviolet, OG.
Yeah, and I feel like...
And this game matters, and Reign shows up in important games. And I feel like this is an important game.
Yeah, and if you look at the two teams on paper, I think Atlanta has the advantage overall. Even though if you look at win-loss, Atlanta's down. I think Atlanta is the better team when it comes down to it, and I think that matters most at the beginning of a
Mhm.
tournament cycle a lot of times, because I feel like Atlanta's able to adjust a lot easier than Toronto will.
So we're both leaning rain on this one. Both leaning
I'm
on
leaning
Atlanta.
rain. Also, they weren't in the last tournament. They had some time to
Fix.
hopefully
And Speedily has more
fix
time with the
whatever issues.
team.
Yeah, and that could be huge. And so yeah, I think good things are coming for Atlanta,
Good things are coming
especially
for
this game.
Atlanta.
Also, as a London fan, Toronto losing games is a good thing.
It is. Getting Toronto off your back a little bit will be good because Spitfires start the stage with one or two easy matches, right? Because they play Titans this week. So if Spitfire are able to win and Defiant lose, well then Spitfire now gain a 2-point lead over Defiant and Rain and put themselves in better positions. Let's now jump over to the Chaos of APAC. Chengdu Hunters and the Hangzhou Spark. I don't know.
Hey, why is this a match we are predding? APAC always kills me. I feel like with the recent Hangzhou Spark things, though, I'm gonna go with the Hunters.
So am I. I feel like Leave will find a way to just make sure this team doesn't lose. And with what the patch notes looks like and what it's leaning towards, it doesn't look like Shy is going to have as much of an opportunity to just win games on Sojourn or Ash.
They're gonna come out with a Bastion.
The Shy
Pharah.
Bastion or the Chengdu?
Chengdu.
Oh, they're going to come out with Farah Bastion. No, Jinmu's going to play Sombra and miss all of his EMPs, but Leave is going to carry anyways. That's probably what's more likely to happen.
That's true.
Let's be honest.
But yeah, I think just right now with
the Chaos, Hunters thrive in Chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos is their middle name. Chengdu Chaos Hunters.
Yeah.
All right. Sticking in APAC. For some reason, the scriptwriters have decided to put the Omega Banger Week 1 Dragons Dynasty version 4 of the regular season matchup, version 7 or 8, 9. I don't know how many. They've played 9 or 10 times this season. Yeah. This will be the last one, though, before playoffs. The final one. So the last 3 times they've met, Dynasty have won 2 maps. They are 2 and 10 on maps. It was not very good in their matchup against Dragons last stage. And I think Dragons win it again.
I think Seoul win it this time. I think it's a meta shift. Last tournament cycle's behind us, and I think I just have a good feeling that going into this next stage, Seoul is...
I'm putting my eggs in the Lip Sombra.
Yeah, which
if anyone's able to destroy another team with Sombra, it's Lip.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but I do think Dynasty probably have the advantage in the tank department because Smurf is able to play all of them, whereas Dragons will have to swap. So, yeah. And we'll probably get to see Iris debut for the Dynasty if Flex supports are back in the meta. Because I don't imagine we're going to see Prophet Brig again. That experiment is over. So, but we get another storied matchup in this rivalry, even though the last 3 matchups have not been particularly close. Jumping back over to North America, Florida Mayhem, Boston Uprising. I feel like this one could be interesting. Uprising ended the Summer Showdown on a high note, taking down the Titans, but then Mayhem surprised everybody at the Summer Showdown in their lower bracket run. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm leaning Florida on this one. I feel like I just don't trust Boston enough to pred them against anyone.
Same here.
Higher than them in the standings. I think they could win, but the way I see it, it's like a 60-40. I think Florida wins 60% of the time.
Yeah, because Boston has looked good with their more Western lineup with Crimzo Punk, and then Seeker played out of his mind against Titans.
Yeah.
But I feel like in this first week with all the chaos,
Boston
Gumba's
does great, and
Gunba's gonna pull something weird out. Like
yeah,
Gumba and McGravy are gonna pull some dumb stuff out again. Because I mean, literally, Mayhem were the only team that was experimenting in the Summer Showdown, whereas everyone else was doing the permanent Junker Queen stuff. They're like, but what if we played on a Zen, and it worked?
yeah.
I think they'll do it again.
Florida's able to do stuff like that,
Yeah.
and Sir Majed won't have visa issues getting into Canada because these won't be in Canada, so that definitely is a plus.
Good thing playoffs are in California.
Oh yeah.
No more international travel for Majed. And then finally, the last game of the week, Predding, going back over to Asia, Spark Fusion. I'm believing in Fusion, hopefully. Please don't play Carpe, please.
Yeah,
okay?
I mean,
Just
we
don't play
talked about
Carpe.
these two teams, and it's boring to pred the same thing, but I'm going to. Like,
Just don't play Carpe. If I see Carpe come out, I'm going to have problems, okay? Now, granted, it's like MN3 probably won't be playing as much hit scan. I wouldn't be surprised if MN3 was the one playing Sombra and Zest was playing the Genji or the Tracer. Because it seems like that's what a lot of teams are doing is like Sombra with Genji or Tracer. But some have been doing it with hit scan, so it's going to be interesting to see if Sombra is what a lot of teams play, who teams decide to put on Sombra, if it's their flex DPS or their hit scan. And I guess it kind of depends on if they want to go heavy dive or if they want to like have the long range. You know, I don't know. This week will be weird. I don't know what's happening because I look at the Outlaws specifically and I'm like, guys, if Sombra's meta, is Dante playing Sombra? But if Dante plays Sombra, who's playing tank? Doge on ping?
I love how Dante on Liquipedia is still listed as DPS.
Thankfully, Outlaws are playing Boston this week, but then again, that is the definition of a Houstonable game. But we say that, but Outlaws have only lost like one winnable game this season, and that was to New York. So to be fair, I'm just very worried about what Jake and Junkbuck have cooking up in the back room, because I don't know if Doge is in North America or not. Because if he's not in North America, then you have to play Dante on tank. But that means you're playing Doomfist into a lot of Sombra, probably. And I don't like that matchup.
Yeah, I've just got to say, I would love to see some Doge. I think...
It just depends on if he's in NA. I haven't heard anything, so that tells me he's not. Outlaws, I wouldn't be surprised if Outlaws just went back to playing Doomfist, or maybe Dante's been learning Zarya. Maybe. Outlaws will play weird things, but what I want to see, London, go back to Rhine. I think if there was ever a week where Reinhardt would be the play, this would be the week. Just run the Reinhardt out.
I would be surprised if they didn't bring out Reinhardt at least
once
this week, you know, because
I mean, you're playing Titans. What's the worst?
Yeah, well, and it's like it seems like the meta's all up in the air. Everyone's kind of shaking off the Junker Queen meta and trying to figure out what to do. And you know, what a great time to bring out something that you know you can play better than anyone else,
especially against a team like the Titans. So just bring it out. Spitfire. Just go back to Rhine May. I don't know what Sparker would play. I guess you could play Sojourn still, but I mean, you could play Reaper if you wanted to. Just run it down mid. But I imagine this week we will probably see almost every tank outside of maybe like Ball and Orisa, because those two.
It's gonna be an Orisa.
But we're just gonna run out with Orisa.
Didn't Kaluj say that Orisa was the pick right now?
I mean, he did, but how much do we really trust Kaluj? I mean, Hottie said
not very much, but
Hottie said Ball was meta. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that one.
I guess we'll see. Could be anything.
Could be anything. We've got a full loaded. I mean, this is the first time week 1 APAC and NA are both playing matches. Started on Thursday, so this is the first loaded opening week of a stage, and we're now in the final countdown.
Sounds exhausting.
I'm ready for it. Bring it on. We're in the home stretch. Hope everybody enjoys the madness that ensues this week. To kick off the Countdown Cup, we will catch you next week as we recap it all.
Bye.